This is the Wheel of GAIA, and I created it to determine the fate of my 3 connected giant vivariums and the creatures living within them. Pandora, my giant rainforest floor vivarium. Orchidia, my giant tree canopy vivarium. And Hydromeda, my tropical wetlands vivarium. All the creatures and life within have no idea their fate will be determined by the spin of this new wheel of events. I moved in to spin the wheel. And as it turned, my heart raced. Where would it stop? I watched intently, but had no idea the result was going to be the start of a crazy biological adventure. Welcome to the Season 5 premiere of my Ecosystem Vivarium Series, where Mother Nature is tested for stability under the pressures of unpredictable events. Here on the AntsCanada Ant Channel. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon. Welcome to the AC family. Enjoy. I held my breath and watched to see where the needle would land. And when it did, my eyes widened. Oh man.
Said what I said, yeah, I thought it'd go away. Was something on my mind, something I had to say.
I was so excited to launch this new operation in the ant room. Something I've been dying to do for years, but haven't gotten around to doing until now. For the longest time, I promised you guys, the AC family, that I would set up a live stream in the ant room so you guys could watch the creatures under my care anytime you wanted by simply logging onto my YouTube channel and tuning into my live stream. And first up was setting up a live stream for Hydromeda, my tropical wetlands vivarium. For now, I would be using 2 simple webcams connected to a laptop, and every 2 minutes, the view would bounce back and forth between the 2 cameras. Eventually, I wanted to scale this up to several cameras and actual SLRs streaming from a desktop computer I would soon be building. I saw this as an AC Live beta for now. And my, did the Hydromedans come out for some camera time. We were able to all watch together in 4K how our tropical wetlands ecosystem operated and transformed in real time from day to night. How the crowds of shrimp emerged from their hiding spots at nightfall when most of the fish were asleep. We watched the schools of tetras swimming through the waters, as well as these fish.
I don't think we're going home without a fight.
One of the dwarf pea pufferfish was on the hunt. It seemed he wasn't that interested in the shrimp at the moment. A swarm of tetras had caught something nearby, but I couldn't quite see what. The puffers normally feed on pest snails, not these huge ones. This puffer was on a mission to find a certain morsel. I have also seen the puffers have a special taste for the red shrimp among all the color types. Not sure why that is, but a new aquatic species had just been introduced into these waters that I knew the tetras and the puffers had a new taste for. AC family, it's time for the big surprise. The tree frogs were out in Hydromeda. For weeks, I've been trying to film them spawning because it was deep in their breeding season. I catch the frogs using Rochella's Pass, the cave tunnel bridge, every evening, probably hoping to also snag a passing roach or two, before emerging into Hydromeda to spawn and soak. I hear the males croaking each night in Hydromeda, but sadly I haven't been able to catch the frogs in the act of mating yet. They truly wait until I'm gone, and it is pitch black before doing the deed. And in the morning, I find these. A foamy mass of eggs. So cool! I couldn't wait for tadpoles. And sure enough, just a couple days after the eggs were laid, I spotted these cuties emerging at night. Newborn tadpoles. There were several of them. At first I thought they may be baby algae eater fish, but upon closer inspection, the body shape and spots truly screamed tadpole. I was amazed by the skin pattern and the clear heartbeat, or pulse of some kind, visible through the skin. Now, as exciting as this was, after this first sighting, I sadly never saw the tadpoles again. I assumed that they were just really good at hiding, but after watching how ravenous the tetras and the puffers were when hunting, I concluded that the tadpoles were all being eaten. And so when I spotted a second frog egg mass in Hydromeda, I wasn't going to make the same mistake twice. I placed the eggs into a container, and sure enough, I began to see newborn tadpoles emerging. The tadpoles were super tiny, and I could see how they could make such a tasty treat for any fish. Over the next few weeks, the frogs continued to lay eggs like crazy, and each time, I collected them until eventually my collection gave rise to this. Welcome to the AC Tadpole Nursery. In this tank, I've got 4 age levels of tadpoles. Have a look at them. Now there's currently a lot of debris floating around, because these tadpoles are very skittish and are quick to dart away every time I approach the tank to watch them. And they end up kicking up organic sediments everywhere in the process. But these waters are quite clean, and the tank is equipped with a small filter. As well as these floating water lettuce, which help eat up toxic nitrogen caused by the tadpole's waste, as well as give the tadpole some cover. Now, according to online sources, tadpoles are primarily herbivorous, munching away on algae, diatoms, bacteria, and organic detritus found in their environment. And what's cool is, Their diet evolves as they grow and prepare for metamorphosis, i.e., as they turn into frogs. Now, after observing these tadpoles, I believe they are pretty much opportunistic and will feed on anything organic and decaying. In my yard, the tadpoles have nothing but water lettuce and poop from a betta. Here in the tadpole nursery, I see the tadpoles feed largely on sediments and decaying matter falling from the water lettuce, as well as on any dead tadpoles. Crazy to learn that these tadpoles are cannibals at any age. They also don't hunt for insects, like they will as adults, as I see insect larvae here introduced via the water lettuce, and they leave those alone. I'm also certain that the tadpoles have been feeding on layers of algae growing on the glass. But their most favorite food of all was something I discovered while doing a food test a few weeks back. AC family, check this out. I tried adding in a pre-crushed cricket, and this is what happened. At first, they kind of ignored the cricket, but hours later, as the water softened it, the tadpoles were happy to munch on it. But I did have another food I wanted to test. Frog pellets. These pellets are made for Pac-Man frogs. Hello there, Shortcake. I've got some food for you. Bam! Yummy. It's been an amazing non-living food for my other horned frog, Jabba the Hutt, who was a decade old. And reading its ingredients, its main constituents are krill meal, fish meal, and cassava starch. So mostly protein, fats, and some carbs. It even helped resolve Shortcake's calcium deficiency and has helped grow out her lower jaw. She can completely close her mouth now, which she couldn't do when I first got her. After placing one of these frog pellets in, I couldn't believe the reaction from the tadpoles. The pellets were a hit. The frogs loved it. Some of the pellet particles inevitably fell to the floor. Where the tadpoles happily sucked them up. I guess it's been offering them some good nutrition, because look, the oldest tadpoles have begun to grow out their hind legs. It's so cute. So I felt these tadpoles would be amazing to add to Hydromeda and do their great work in our aquatic rainforest ecosystem and eventually develop into froglets. I couldn't wait to see them crawl out onto land and enter our rainforest as arboreal creatures. Now, I began to wonder if I should just add the medium-sized and largest tadpoles, as these surely would be safe from being eaten by the fish, and simply raise the little ones until they reached a safe size to be added in. Or should I just place all of them in at once and let the ecosystem call away the weak, slow, and unskilled tadpoles, just as would happen in the wild? There were at least 100 or so tadpoles in the nursery, and more on the way. And I couldn't possibly keep all the frogs. In nature, many aquatic predators depend on such seasonal bursts of protein, and with it being tadpole season where I live, perhaps it might be prudent to just dump all of these tadpoles into Hydromeda. I'll also eventually need to get some creature that eats tree frogs if we end up with too many. I knew the tadpoles would surely thrive in Hydromeda. There was plenty of food for them to eat. Lots of decaying plant matter, lots of algae growing everywhere, and to be frank, Hydromeda could use some help with algae eaters. And there were lots of these. A cricket had fallen in and was attempting to swim to safety. This happens quite a lot. If this cricket fails to climb up onto dry land, it will end up becoming food for aquatic creatures. This cricket, however, was lucky to swim to safety. For some reason, the crickets love visiting the wetlands. Even if the danger of drowning is so high, they love hiding in the driftwood bridge, coming from Rochella's Pass cave tunnel. The crickets have been using Rochella's Pass, migrating to Hydromeda from Pandora, where they spend a lot of their time. I spotted a male who had lost his hind legs. Poor guy. He probably lost them by escaping a predator or from a past fight with other males. But I was about to discover that I shouldn't judge a book by its cover. This male was a tough one. I watched as he patrolled his plot of earth, which he claimed as his stage for singing to females. Another larger male came along, and suddenly, it was a wrestling match. With wings raised in the air, the males faced off, sizing each other up, boxing with their front legs. And in the end, our four-legged cricket was victorious. "And stay out!" he exclaimed. Sometimes I do see the males attempt to wrestle with other females, which makes no sense. I think the males realize later their mistake, which is okay because Mother Nature designed it so that the dumb ones don't pass on their genes. The crickets have been awesome in our rainforest ecosystem, where they eat detritus, like decaying leaves, as well as plants. They gather a wide array of nutrients from the forest, and hence make a nutritious meal to the predators of the rainforest, like this one. Snap, our resident sun skink, had just woken up and was resting. Before heading out to hunt, we discovered in a live stream that she routinely comes out into the open like this, twice a day to swallow up a cricket, bask, then hide away in the foliage of the rainforest. Based on analysis of her droppings, the crickets make a good portion of her diet, at least at this part of the year. You see, in Pandora, insect activity is actually quite low right now because of the summer estivation of most of the critters who have retreated underground for the past 2 months to lay dormant in order to escape the heat, waiting for the rainy season. Good news is, rainy season officially started a couple days ago, so our rainforest creatures should be coming out soon. In fact, here's one of them now. A chubby frog named Jay-Z has already begun to emerge. He's kind of in a dazed state at the moment, and will take a few days to truly wake up, and hopefully by then, his partner Beyonce, who is somewhere underground still, will also emerge, and they will both get right into breeding. For now though, there aren't a whole lot of prey for Jay-Z to eat. Chubby frogs specialize in eating ants, and the only ants I see in Pandora right now are these guys, the nomads, our gnome ants. But I think they're much too small for Jay-Z's taste. I do see some spider activity, like this jumping spider, and some snails. But other than that, Pandora is a bit devoid of animal activity presently. Sorry, Jay-Z. Perhaps in a week's time, the rainforest will be up and active again. Up in the trees, however, it's kind of a different story, especially at night. From a live stream session, we all were surprised to see how active Orchidia becomes each night. With the emergence of these critters, our micro squirrels. And man, did they show up for some camera time. My internet was spotty at the time, but the camera would often freeze at just the right moments. Also visible in the live stream were these guys, the chromatoblasters. The chromatoblasters were active and busy, crawling around everywhere, scouring the canopy for food. To my surprise, they were also busy having another nuptial flight. They were still in their breeding season. Man, these ants have been having nuptial flights for the past 3 months. It's no wonder these ants dominate our rainforest trees. I also spotted a small beetle, a snail, and tiny spider, and of course the tree frogs. Lots of cricket activity up here in the canopy as well. So as you can see, life in our 3 connected vivaria has been okay so far, now that they are connected and sharing creatures who can move between worlds. There's been nothing too major to update on, other than the Tadpole nursery, due to the summer lull. But in this time of our rainforest dormancy, I've had some time to think about how we could better improve our study of the ecosystems and better learn how our rainforest responds to certain changes and events applied to them. Which brings me now to the Wheel of GAIA. In previous seasons, all events were decided by me, while also bouncing my ideas off you guys via the polls in my channel posts to collaborate with you on this biological project. But there were some problems with this method. I felt the decisions to add new creatures into our system and create such natural events to occur within our rainforest ecosystem were not quite random enough. You see, we all just love adding new creatures into the vivariums, for instance, right? But looking back, we had a greater bias for predators. And I get that. They're exciting to watch hunt. So I kept on adding a greater amount of predators. But we needed a better mix of not just predators, but herbivores, different types of animals, and even different sizes of animals. Second, generally these ecosystem events, as I've named them, for the most part have been either happy events or just neutral in nature. This was understandable, seeing as we humans tend to build emotional ties to our favorite creatures that we follow along in each of their life's journey. But that is not exactly how Mother Nature works. Sometimes she has ecological disruptions. Sometimes there are invasions of foreign species, and even events that can be classified as natural disasters. Now, studying nature can be a sensitive topic when it comes to ethics, and I've been quite mindful so far, considering the lives involved in this biological project. But if I did want to study how nature works, I needed to mimic the randomness of events and eliminate as much bias as possible, while also still not being cruel. And so, my solution to this was to create a randomizer, something to help determine the events happening in our ecosystem. And that way, we wouldn't have to choose, nor have a bias towards a specific event over others, and could simply just sit back and leave the decision of our rainforest ecosystem events to the spin of a wheel. AC family, behold the Wheel of Gaia. I think you understand the principle of how this will work. We spin the wheel, which has a list of ecological events, and where it lands is what we will be executing within our rainforest. Here are the list of 15 events. A lot of these are adding various kinds of animals in. Some of the larger, more impactful animals are simply an introduction for 24 hours. Some of these events can either be good or not so good for certain creatures. But I obviously don't want to kill our ecosystems, so I made sure not to add any events that would cause a total catastrophe and mass death, like forest fire or something. The events on this wheel were all events that I felt would lead to the highest opportunity to learn things about how ecosystems work and respond to each. Now, for every episode of the season, I plan on spinning this wheel and doing what it says. But here's a question I haven't decided on yet. Once the needle lands on an event, should we make that event no longer an option for future spins? Or should we allow all events to happen as many times as the needle lands on them? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. So, it was time to have the Wheel of Gaia choose our great rainforest ecosystem's first event. When I spun the wheel, this was what it landed on. May Gaia's wheel be done. Vote in my community tab to affect this story.